Christians, are all foods clean? Part 1. But Jason, Peter was told to eat unclean animals that came out of heaven on a blanket, and this means that all foods are now clean. Really? Let's test that. To understand Peter's vision, we must understand the relationship that Peter had with the Messiah. Peter and a bunch of the disciples go fishing on a boat with a net, but catch no fish. In the early morning hours, Yeshua appears on the shoreline and asks the men, "Children, have you any meat?" And they answer, "No, we don't." Yeshua then instructed the men to cast their nets on the right side of the boats, and they will find fish. They follow his instructions, and they catch so many fish they can hardly pull the nets in by reason of its weight. There were 153 fish in the nets. Ramesh, this was the third time Yeshua showed himself to his disciples. After that, he was risen from the dead. When they have dined, Yeshua asked Simon Peter, "Do you love me?" Peter said, "Yes." Yeshua then told him to feed his sheep. He said unto him again the second time, "Peter, do you love me?" Peter said, "Yes." He then said unto him the second time, "Feed my sheep." Yeshua said unto Peter the third time, "Peter, do you love me?" Peter was grieved because he said unto him the third time, "Do you love me?" For the third time, Yeshua told Peter to feed his sheep. Peter confessed the name of the Messiah, but his heart was not turned to the Messiah as yet. He did not understand the speech of the Messiah. Question: what was the speech of the Messiah that Peter could not understand? And it shall come to pass that everything that lives and moves that come out of these rivers, and there will be many, a great multitude of fish. For this river will go into the sea and make the seawater fresh. The sea is the nations, the river is the law. And it shall come to pass that the fathers shall stand on it from Engedi even unto En Engliam. Ramesh, they shall be a place to spread forth nets. Their fish shall be according to their own kinds, as the fish of the great sea, exceedingly many. Remember when Yeshua was standing on the shore and asked Peter, "Have you any meat for me?" The meat or the fish was the nations. Again, the kingdom of heaven was like unto a net that was cast into the sea and gathered of every kind, which, when it was full, they drew it to the shore and sat down and gathered the good fish into vessels and cast the bad fish away after its own kinds. Peter kept casting his net to the left side of the boat, to the Jews, not thinking of his brothers, the lost sheep, who were scattered onto the four corners of the earth, unto all nations. When Peter cast his net to the right side of the boat, unto all nations, the four corners, he got many fish. But Peter still did not understand the significance of this net full of fish or meat that the Messiah was asking him for. Now, let's go to Acts 10 and Peter's vision. There was a certain man called Cornelius, a devout man that feared God with all his household. To fear God is to keep the law. An angel appears to Cornelius in a vision, and he instructed Cornelius to send men to Joppa and call for a man named Simon Peter. Cornelius calls 3 men and sends them away to Joppa to call on Simon Peter. As the 3 men near the city of Joppa, where Peter was, Peter goes onto the roof to pray. And Peter became very hungry. And as the house was preparing the food, Peter fell into a trance or a vision. Peter saw a blanket come out of heaven that was knitted on all 4 corners. Question: why was this blanket knitted on all 4 corners? Because the lost sheep were scattered onto all 4 corners of the earth, unto all nations. On this blanket was all manner of animals, fowls and beasts of all nations. And there came a voice unto him, saying, "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." But Peter said, "Not so, my Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean." And the voice spoke to Peter for the second time, "What God has cleansed, thou shalt not call common." This was done 3 times, and then the blanket was taken back up to heaven again. Now, while Peter was doubting in himself what this vision could mean, behold, the 3 men who were sent by Cornelius called on the man named Simon Peter. While Peter thought on his vision, the Spirit said to him, "Behold, 3 men seek thee. Rise, Peter, and go and meet them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them." Remember in Peter's vision how he was told to rise and eat 3 times? But Peter doubted if he should eat, pondering on his vision and what it could mean, as Peter never ate anything uncommon or unclean. Peter walked and ate with the Messiah. If his vision had anything to do with unclean food, Peter would have known this and he would not have doubted his own vision. Question: so what did Peter's vision mean, and what did these common and unclean animals resemble? And Peter said unto them, "You know how it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company with one of another nation or a Gentile. But God has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean." Question: was Peter's vision about unclean animals that you can now eat? No, it was about the Gentiles or the lost sheep of Israel that are no longer called Gentiles. They, the Gentiles, are grafted back into Israel through obedience. Question: why were they called the lost sheep or the Gentiles? They were lost sheep because God gave 10 of the 12 tribes a divorce letter because they broke God's law, and then went out of the promised land and were scattered to the 4 corners of the earth. Can you see how Yeshua primed and prepared Peter for this vision of the Gentiles long before Peter had this vision? Also note that Cornelius was a Gentile that feared God. He kept God's law. Because Cornelius was obedient and he kept God's law, he feared God, he got grafted back into Israel. Just for those who say that the Gentiles don't have to keep God's law, that the law was only for the Jews. You can only get grafted back into Israel if you are obedient. The Spirit of God is only given to those who are obedient. But in every nation, he that fears him and works righteousness is accepted with him. This is the word which God sent unto the children of Israel, preaching peace by Yeshua the Messiah. In Peter's mind, for the first time, he really understood what the Messiah was telling him. From that day on, Peter did not only cast his net to the Jews, but also on the other side of the boat, to the Gentiles. He remembered how the Messiah appeared to him 3 times before ascending into heaven. He remembered how the Messiah asked him 3 times if he loved him. He remembered how the Messiah asked him 3 times to feed his sheep. Then only Peter connected the dots of the blanket appearing 3 times, and how God told him to stand up and eat 3 times. Christians, why is it that you cannot understand my speech? Is it because you cannot listen to the word or the glorious gospel? Are you of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father you will do? He was a murderer from the beginning, and in him is no truth. When he speaks a lie, he speaks out of himself, for he is a liar and the father of all lies. But you believe not, because you are not my sheep. As I said unto you, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Ramesh, and to all you Baal priests, preaching against the gospel or the Torah, O child of the devil, an enemy of righteousness, will you not cease to pervert the right ways of the Most High? Who committed the first murder? Cain did. Cain, where's your brother Abel? I don't know. I'm not his keeper. Satan is your daddy.